Okay. Finance and Law Subcommittee will come to order Wednesday, March 6th, 2024. Attendance, Mrs. Shavs.
Present.
Mr. Viera is present, Dr. DeMello is absent. First item on the agenda, facilities update. Assistant Superintendent Moynihan.
Thank you. As we do monthly, Director of Facilities provides us with a facility due work orders. As you can see here, our work orders to date through February 28th, we have over 1,718 work orders throughout the city. Of those 1,700 work orders, 1,300 of them are school work orders. So therefore, it's 76% of all work orders are considered to be within the schools. On the second page, you will see a quick synopsis of how many work orders are open and how many are closed per school and by the district.
Any questions from the committee? Any questions from any others? Hearing none. Motion would be in order to receive and place on file.
Motion to accept this report?
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The motion passes. Item number 2, use of facilities.
Memo again, in your packet, you will see that 3 organizations have requested the use of our facilities. And you also will see what we have been charging for, depending upon what type of organization. So we have 3 of them, again, at the high school, at Benjamin Friedman, 2 of them at Benjamin Friedman Middle School.
Questions from the committee? Questions from any others?
Motion to accept?
Motion has been made. The chair seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion passes. Item number 3, request to bid cafeteria supplies.
Director of Food Services, Glenn Motta, has requested that we go out to bid for groceries, milk, and bread, which all 3 contracts expire at the end of June. Therefore, what he will do is he will go ahead and put out a bid, and then once the bid closes, we will come in front of the school committee to open up those bids. There are 3 of them: groceries, milk, and bread. Sure.
Is it appropriate to authorize the superintendent to bid said items? So a motion to authorize the superintendent to go out for bid for the stated items.
Motion to accept?
Motion made. All right, motion is made, seconded by the chair. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion passes. Number 4, request to dispose surplus supplies.
As you can see here, we do have some multiple books that are very old, that have been stored and have not been used. We are requesting that the books, and again, I'll go over them quickly, but we will, if of course the school committee approves, before we do dispose of them, we will ask area organizations if they would like us to donate them to their organization. But again, that is, of course, first before we dispose. So the first one here, they're all coming from the science department at the high school, and the first one, we have over almost 300 books, and they are an average cost about $1 because they were purchased in 2012. The other one, another science book, a biology book. Again, there's about over 500 books at $1 each. And then lastly, there's more than last. And then there's another science book. Approximate year of purchase was 2006. 133 of these books at an average of $1 each. And then lastly, the book is from 2012. It's a chemistry book, about 256 books, and they are also $1 in value.
This is in accordance with the policy and procedure of the
Correct.
school
So
committee.
what we'll ask is the school committee to go ahead and approve the disposal of these. But again, what I said before, please note that we will ask organizations before we do, if we need to dispose of them.
All right, so a motion would be in order if there's no questions. Mrs. Shavs.
I've done this before, so I just want to be clear about the fact that they've already gone through trying to see if any companies would buy these, and these are so dated that they would never buy these books.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so when you say later on dispose of them, they'll be, if no company then wants to take them for free, then they will be recycled.
Correct.
Okay.
So, motion would be in order to dispose of the surplus supplies.
Motion to accept this.
Motion to.
Motion to accept.
So, seconded by the chair, motion was made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, the motion carries. Item number 5, donation, see memo.
The donation is coming from our Director of Curriculum for STEM, Dr. Elizabeth Pawlowski, and this is a donation to Taunton Public Schools. So Taunton Public Schools recently received a donation in a relationship with the National Science Teaching Association. So 2 teachers from Taunton Public Schools are invited to attend the national conference in Denver, Colorado, from March 20th through the 22nd. The NSTA, which is the National Science Teaching Association, is providing entry into this event. That is $480 per educator. The lodging, which is $600 per educator, and micro-credentialing instruction, which is $900 per educator. So on behalf of these educators, Dr. Pawlowski is seeking approval for Taunton Public Schools to provide the travel costs, which is about $600 per educator. And again, the donation is for the training, 3-night stay, and full access to the conference for 2 educators, and that donation is about $3,960, but we are requesting the approval for TPS to provide the travel costs, again, approximately $600 per teacher, which is a total of $1,200.
If I could, and Superintendent Cabral, maybe you could help me with this. Our educators, are bound by the ethics laws. Is this almost as if they're accepting something in the value of $2,000?
If we accept the donation, and so if the school committee accepts this donation, and we're being transparent and communicating to the public that we are accepting this donation, then we are not violating the ethics laws. If this was being done directly with the individual, that would be a different story, and they accepted the donation that way.
Is there any way, can we get
This
opinion from?
is the similar process that we've done with 3 other donations.
When was
finance
the
and-
last one? I don't think it
It
was
would
on
have
finance
been
and law,
to,
so.
what was the group to Chicago, Mr. Barata?
Nexus.
Nexus. This
So
is-
if this could be helpful background information, they were selected to attend this conference and to learn from it and bring back and do presentations based upon the work with Nexus and also with Open Syed. We saw the video clips and such where they were featured. So because they were featured in that type of venue out on YouTube, they're asked to go out there, be credentialed, and then come back in the district and provide our own staff PD.
Thank you, Mr. Browder. I know just because it's something the district's always done, I don't want you to think I'm implying we're doing something we shouldn't be, but
no.
I'd like to see clarification just
I
to
can
make
provide
sure.
clarification, but what I would also like to see is, this trip is coming up in March, so would we consider approving the costs? So we have professional development funds that we can utilize to pay for this, or with with the finance and law, accept the costs associated with this trip, knowing that we could seek reimbursement once I bring you the clarification?
Again, how would we vote on that? We're gonna vote on it subject to.
So change the motion to.
I would prefer to
'Cause this is-
table the matter for now and then hold a special meeting if we need to next week.
Well, if we just,
to
what I'm
vote
saying
on
is we could use our P card, and charge to Title II account, which is a grant account that pays professional development. So we would pay for it, and then once I provide you the documentation on the 20th, that this is allowed, then we would just have the
Yeah,
funds transferred.
With all due respect, that's not how we advertise it
So we could.
on the agenda, so that's why I think it would be cleaner if we
But somebody could,
maybe tabled it for now and
what
then.
I don't wanna see happen is our,
Well, I don't either, but at the same time, I don't wanna be culpable for something that
this is
may
a similar,
possibly be,
I will follow the wishes of the chair.
so,
So a couple of things. I just want to just clarify, just to make sure. So the $3,960 are coming from NASTA, so that's not out of our pocket.
That would be a donation.
That's a donation. The $1,200 cost is gonna come under a grant per Chris Barata that says, so the only other thing we're covering is coverage for the teachers to go, because it's during the.
Incidentals for
it-
travel,
yeah.
like food,
Yeah.
water,
So,
but again.
and this wouldn't be any different than what you guys just went on, a similar type of situation. You've gone on a couple of trips recently where.
That's
yeah.
different, because that was grant funded.
That was
This is-
grant funded.
This is a donation,
Okay, okay.
So,
So because it's a donation, then,
but it's similar to the process we followed with Nexus, where we've sent several teams to Chicago for training.
okay, okay.
So
Maybe-
Again, if we could go a different route, and Taunton Public Schools could pay through our Title II funds, somebody could make a motion to authorize the superintendent to approve this trip using the Title II funds, and then seek clarification on the donation, then we just the money just washes out.
again, is that appropriate, even though it wasn't on the agenda to do it that way?
Because we're seeking approval for the trip too. You guys need to approve you need approval to send these staff members on this professional development. So it's approval of the donation and approval of the trip.
I'm fine with making a motion to approve the trip and to seek clarification of the donation.
Thank you. And we'll have that for you on the 20th, if not sooner.
Okay. So, motion was made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
The chair votes oppose. Motion doesn't carry. Okay, item number 6, bills payable.
As you have in front of you, you have the warrant for FY '24 for the amount of $877,676.88. Any questions on the warrant?
Mrs. Schaaf?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Page 3, it says Arts for Learning. That's 2,400. What is that?
It is a presentation that was done at Letty School for the students.
Okay.
Have,
On page 4, we have 16,000 for Friedman, Babazon Light.
We have been making upgrades, and this was also charged to a grant. This is an upgrade to the Friedman Theater lights. So what we're doing is we're trying to update our auditoriums because we do use them quite often for community venues.
Okay. Thank you. The other thing that I saw is there's a lot of professional development listed in here. Page 5, there's 18,000. Page 11, there's 13,000. Page 18, there's 4,500. Is this all one day, or is this PD throughout the year?
It depends on which one you're looking at, but some of
Okay.
them can be, if you think about it, if we are paying for something, that means the services have been received, so the PD has been received.
Okay.
Depending upon which one, but all of that PD we never pay unless the PD has been completed.
Received. Okay. I think that's it for me.
I have a question
Yes.
on, thank you, Mrs. Schaaf. Page 16, Silver City Glass, is that for the vestibules that were just installed?
Yes, they are the 2 vestibules that were approved and again, grant funded. And you just saw one right now, too.
Where was the second one?
At Parker.
Awesome. It looks wonderful. It's great work. So I think if those are all the questions, a motion would be in order for bills payable FY '24 in the amount of $877,676.88.
Motion to accept?
Chair seconds. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The motion carries. Motion to adjourn will be in order.
Motion to adjourn?
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I call the meeting to order. If you could please join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Mrs. Fagan, if you could lead us in the prayer.
Lord, as we begin this session, let us acknowledge your goodness and mercy and ask your blessings on all our deliberations. We thank you for this opportunity to be of service to our community and to the young people entrusted to our care. And if you could remain standing, I have another sad thing to report in the school department, the loss of one of our students. Carson Randy, so I'm asking for a moment of silence. Carson Randy Silvera, age 12, passed away in Boston after a sudden illness with his loving family by his side. This was back in February. He was the beloved son of Vanessa Silvera Almeida and Jose Almeida Sr. of Taunton. He leaves behind 3 sisters and a loving brother. He was the cherished grandson of Lori Karen Silvera of Rehoboth and Stephen Farrell Carmen Rodriguez of Wilson, North Carolina, and Jose Almeida of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and grandson of the late Randall P. Silvera. He had a special relationship with his uncle and godfather, Drew Silvera of Rehoboth, and his auntie and godmother, Heather Career of Taunton. He was also loved by his many aunts, uncles, cousins, and friends. He was educated in Rehoboth, Taunton Public Schools, and was currently a 6th grader at Benjamin Friedman School. They said he was happiest spending time with his family, but loved swimming, electronics, Avatar, and Harry Potter's movies and books, and loved the beach and traveling. Our sincere, regrets go out to his family in this awful loss. It has to be difficult to lose a young child like that, and so I respectfully ask that we keep this family in our thoughts and our prayers. And just if anybody's interested, his visiting hours will be held on Friday, March 8th from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Silva Funeral Home on Broadway. So a moment of silence, please, and prayers for his family. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Fagan. Roll call, please, Mrs. Fagan.
Mr. Enos.
Present.
Oh, my God. Mrs. Sharps.
Present.
Mr. Pulowski.
Present.
Mrs. Fagan's present. Ms. Santos.
Present.
Mr. Vieira.
Present.
And Mr. Laura. And somebody's,
Present.
and Dr. DeMello is absent. He's on a trip. And Mayor O'Connell.
Present. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Approval of the minutes of February 7th, 2024.
Move approval as read by title.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed, so voted. We have the Student Advisory Committee report. We have 2 students with us this evening, Isaiah Wendell and Leanna Mora, and Leanna will give the report.
Thank you. So we've had so many wonderful things happening at Taunton High School these last few weeks. To start, we had our long-awaited Mr. THS sure that you know them. We'd also like to congratulate our runner-ups, Drew Alves and Joshua Lieutenant. Thank you. Of course, we owe this incredible show to Miss Caitlin Dermody, and her devotion and effort to the show that she does every single year does not go without notice. Thank you to our judges, the Tigers that came to support our contestants, and of course, the wonderful tech team that made the show possible. And finally, thank you to our amazing hosts, Kobu Fernandez, Jenna Pereira, and Bridget McDougall. Also, progress reports are closing this week. Teacher recommendations for next year's courses were submitted today, and students will be scheduling for the upcoming school year this month. On another note, spring sports at Taunton High are right around the corner. The deadline to register for spring sports is tomorrow, the 7th, and the tryouts will begin on March 18th. All winter sports have concluded, and we'd like to congratulate our winter teams on another successful season. Taunton DECA is about to compete in their state competition tomorrow, and we are lucky to have a very large group of competitors that are advancing to the state level. Best of luck to everybody who is competing. Our drama club performed Alice in Wonderland at the Massachusetts Educational Theater Guild Festival, and while they did not advance to semifinals, a few of our actors got special recognition for their outstanding performance. Special congratulations to Kobu Fernandez, Garrick Miak, Noah Bukow, Brooke Resendiz on their wins. We are so proud of all the actors and crew members. Our annual World Language and Diversity Week is in full swing. Taunton High students and staff are learning about new cultures and how to embrace them in our daily lives. The lovely Letitia Lopes, a member of our student committee who could not attend tonight, played a pivotal role in the execution of this year's World Language and Diversity Week. In her absence, I'd like to read a statement from her to give more insight on this week. Good evening, everyone. I could not attend tonight's meeting, but I wanted to talk about the amazing events we are having at Taunton High for World Language and Diversity Week. This commemoration is designed to promote cultural awareness and encourage language learning. I would like to thank all the students and staff who are making this amazing week possible. The decorations, posters, and activities are amazing. I had the amazing opportunity to be the host of the Cultural Lenses panel on Monday, March 4th. It is an opportunity for students and staff from diverse backgrounds to share personal stories about their cultural identities. And it was a success. Thank you to everyone who attended the events this week. A special thank you to Mrs. Pacheco, Ms. Musa, and Mr. Leonard, all world language teachers and the panelists and the students and staff involved. Additionally, we've been celebrating Women's History Month in tandem with Black History Month, which was this February. Following the theme of diversity and appreciation of culture, we are researching different women who are part of the BIPOC community and decorating our halls full of posters and student art. While we only have a week dedicated to world languages and diversity at our school, we continue to learn about them year-round. That concludes my report, and I thank you for your time and your attention.
Okay, thank you, Leanna. Excellent job delivering that report, and we always appreciate our students being here. All right. Is there any public input this evening? Okay, thank you. So we will go to E, which is Taunton High School update, reimagining Taunton High School. Superintendent Cabral?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So as Principal Holcomb and his team prepare to present, this will be a more in-depth look into the Taunton High School School Improvement Plan, which is really about reimagining the future of Taunton High School. There will be three main priorities that align with the district instructional leadership plan. We will focus on student achievement, it will focus on mental health, and it will also focus on our early college and our work around expanding pathways. So with that being said, I'll turn the floor over to Principal Holcomb and his team, and you should be receiving an updated copy of the presentation as the high school team made some changes over the weekend to incorporate more information based on a recent reimagining trip to Colorado. So with that being said, again, Principal Holcomb, the floor is yours, and we look forward to hearing about all the amazing work taking place at the high school with the support of the leadership team, central office, superintendent, school committee, and the mayor's office. So this is really an in-depth presentation, and I think you'll be just as impressed as the high school subcommittee was as they take a deeper dive into this outstanding work. So thank you, Principal Holcomb. The PowerPoint up and ready?
We're ready to rock and roll.
All right, so I had to talk for a little while to make sure everything got up and running, so now everything's up and running. The floor is yours.
I appreciate you filling the time with that important information. First of all, as they say, it takes a village, right? The high school's massive in size, which is a positive thing, so the information you're going to get tonight is pretty meaty and pretty dense because you have, 2,700, 2,800, depending on fluctuation of students at that high school. But the school improvement plan is really about reimagining Taunton High School. And I want to kick it off by doing a couple things here. the first thing I want to do is talk about, like Superintendent Cabral said, there's 3 buckets that we want to talk about tonight. This first bucket is going to talk about the Bar Foundation. That's with 2 R's at the end of it, so people listening at home understand that we're talking about an organization that's philanthropic in nature. And what they really try to help do is they try to help seed fund change efforts geared towards historically marginalized populations where normally doors would be closed, that if we do this the right way, we'll open more doors that'll be good for all people. All right, the second thing we're going to talk about tonight is the early college initiative that we have, and that's really growing and going. And the last piece will be wraparound services of student supports. So what I did was, instead of hearing me talk about the density of this report, I brought team members here that are going to come up and present as well, because what they're going to do is they represent larger groups, because it's all about passing the torch on. And so we have the foundations right now and the makings of something great, which is continuing to occur. We're going from great to greater in Taunton Public Schools, and so they're going to describe how we're getting to greater. And so before I start, though, just want you to know where this stuff came from. The Bar Foundation was a grant that was shown to Superintendent Cabral and myself, that we said, this is something that we could probably do. And it was all of New England, including Connecticut. You can think of like all these different schools that put in for it. Thousands of high schools put in for it, and there were only 8 high schools that were picked across all those high schools that placed in for this to get this grant to reimagine it. Seed funded with $100,000 for us to begin the process, with an open check at the end, depending on what we can imagine for the future that the philanthropic group will give us. That was done by Dr. Buckley was part of it, Dr. Pulowski was part of it, Stephanie Hoy, Superintendent Cabral. So a large team made this thing happen and put it across the finish line to get awarded. Here to talk more about it is our assistant principal, Carolyn Blano. She's going to come up here and walk us through some pieces, so on her teammates, and we'll go through these slides accordingly. Carolyn Blano, come on up. Here's your presentation. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Holcomb. I think it's imperative to just start off and share that there are tremendous and amazing things going on at Taunton High School right now. But like any great organization, we are going to look to improve and make ourselves better. Like Mr. Holcomb shared, the $100,000 grant from the Bar Foundation, we are so very fortunate to have it. As one of 8 schools, we are part of the Meeting the Moment cohort, and Bar has designed this process to go through 3 phases. The first phase is the learn phase, where we are essentially listening to our stakeholders, and we have worked to do that over the last several months. The next phase is the dream phase, to visit and be inspired by schools across the country so that we can bring back amazing and awesome initiatives to our school. And the last phase is the plan phase, where we sit down with our stakeholders again and really dream up how we want to transform Taunton High School so that it becomes even better for all of our students. I'm going to invite Karen Sarabian up here. She is one of our teachers who was on our Meeting the Moment original team, and she's going to share how we went ahead and facilitated our learn phase at our school.
Thank you, Carolyn. I'm Karen Sarabian. I'm one of the math teachers at Taunton High School, and I'm going to walk you through what we did for our learn phase to kick off this Bar Foundation. The first thing we did was we got together as a team, and we went out to this convening with our team and opened our minds, brainstormed what could we really change, what's working at Taunton High, but also what's not working at Taunton High, and what do we want to see in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. How do we want to dream our school to be? And Bar really supported us with that. They really walked us through and did some great activities, and we collaborated with the other schools in that cohort to really come up with a plan moving forward, so that when we got to Taunton High School at the start of this school year, we could really get everybody on board. We didn't want to just keep it this solid 8 people. We wanted everybody. We wanted the community, we wanted students, we wanted staff. So that's what we did. Bar teamed up with Youth Truth Survey. They had us surveying community, students, and staff. We took all of that data. We listened to students, which for me personally, I interviewed a lot of those students, and it was a really awesome experience to hear what those students had to say, and a lot of the ideas that they had for how we could change Taunton High School and what made it great for them. So that was a great experience for anyone that was involved with that. We did roundtable talks with teachers and just tried to see what they were thinking. Teachers are the closest to those students and have a great perspective, and we wanted to make sure we really pulled that in and understood what they saw. We did wellness workshops, and then lastly, we also partnered with Spring Point. And Spring Point came in as a separate organization that we teamed up with BAR, and they did panels where they talked to students, they talked to teachers, they talked to administrators, they visited classrooms, they talked to people in the hallways, and they took a bunch of this data and they presented it back to us. And in summary, they thought we were awesome. They thought there were so many great things going on at Taunton High School. But of course, they also had some constructive feedback for us to improve. And so what we got from that were these 3 questions. With everything that we collected, we decided to focus in on this. And it was screaming at us from every angle that these were the places that we wanted to focus. So we said, how do we increase a sense of belonging and improve that culture? How can we improve collaboration? And then how can we give students more paths and inspiration for success and a greater sense of purpose? And those questions were what we focused on with everything moving forward, including the trips that we went on. And I think a common question with that was, why did we go on those trips? Why did we need to travel? And we did. We went to San Bernardino, we went to San Diego, we went to Yuma. There was a teacher team that went to Colorado. And we were able to open our minds and get inspiration and ask the questions. How did other schools onboard students coming into their high schools? How did they engage with students? How did they get students to engage with the work? What does collaboration look like there? How do they develop that climate and culture that they have, because so many schools had such great culture? How did they do that? And so we were able to inspire ourselves. I was personally re-inspired when I came back. I was like ready to take on the world. And we wanted to bring that back to everybody. We wanted to kind of reinvigorate the school and say, this is what we learned out there, and this is what we can do. So I'm actually going to pause, and I'm going to turn it over to Herbert Leonard, who's one of the teachers that we brought on an all-teacher team out to Colorado for another school, and he's going to talk more about our experiences.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Herbert Leonard, as she said. I'm a world languages teacher at Taunton High School. My name was mentioned earlier, actually. So being part of this BAR journey has been so very inspiring. That is the best word to describe it, just very inspiring, reinvigorating. I'm very excited to be speaking to you about some of the takeaways that we observed during the visit, during our visits. So as you know, a team went to California, and then an all-teacher team went to Colorado, to Aurora, Colorado. You can see some of the pictures up on the slide. Some of the major takeaways that we noticed were student voice. Student voice was so very present in everything that the school did. Student panels that we got to talk to, anything you asked a student, they were either involved in it and could speak to personal experience, or they were able to speak about it because they just knew why they were doing it, what was the purpose, and they knew enough to be able to tell us and answer our questions. Students were so very much happy. They were just genuinely happy to be there. And that was so exciting and so refreshing that they were so engaged, and they took a lot of pride in their work. And a lot of that comes with giving them the choice. So you can see some of the pathways. So pathways are something that I think we're going to talk about after as well, but there's certain things that they can choose, and it gives them more purpose as to why they're learning what they're learning. And instead of just going through the motions, they actually have purpose, and they can tell you what they're learning, why they're learning it. Which is something that we would really love to bring back to Taunton High. Obviously, there's great things happening at Taunton High. Our students are learning so much. But this is just something else, another ability, another aspect for them to be able to engage in their learning. Something else leading to my next point is making the walls talk. So everywhere, especially in Colorado, because that's the trip I was on, I was able to speak to that more. But in California as well, I've talked to the team that went to California. There was so much student work everywhere on the walls. It's just, you could feel the pride that the school had in their students, and you could feel the pride that the students had for their school and their work. And that's something that we really want to bring back to Taunton High, and it was mentioned earlier actually, there's a lot of some things happening already that are getting the student work out there and just making it, showcasing it, and giving the students the platform to be proud of being at Taunton High and their work and things that they do. So, like I said, that's one of our greatest hopes, and by giving them that sense of ownership in their school, hopefully we see a lot of engagement and just increased joy to be at Taunton High School. So we have some blurbs from our teachers. You can read them. So Bill McGarrigle, Meg LeBlanc, and Jake Moniz were some of the teachers who went to the Colorado trip with us. And these are some of the quotes that they provided. I'll let you read them at your convenience. But we went to William Smith High School in Aurora, Colorado over February break, and we were able to workshop with BAR and received a lot of support in taking what was, in theory, a very different school. You know, it started as an alternative high school and then changed into this sort of project-based learning school, and we were able to debrief with BAR, and they really gave us the tools and the abilities to see what can we take from this experience to bring back to Taunton High School. And so the major theme that we saw was that student voice, trust, a lot of trust from all levels, so from district to administration, from administration to teachers, students being involved in their own curriculum, in their own decisions, in their own journey. Those were the biggest things we saw. We also saw a lot of relationship building, a lot of strong relationships, which Taunton High School is pretty good at doing right now, but just expanding upon that. And later on in this presentation, you're going to hear about crew, which I'll let them explain. But that was a major piece that we saw, especially in Colorado. They felt very close to this sort of advisory piece of the school where they go to this teacher and they make these bonds. So they'll talk about that as well. But the school culture and climate was very unified, and everyone knew what was expected of them, and that's something that we really want to bring back. And just on behalf of all the teachers, I'm representing tonight, I just want to thank you all for your support, and thank you to our administration, to everyone for including us, including the teachers in this opportunity as we reimagine Taunton High School and all the amazing things we're already doing and where we can go next. So I will pass the mic off to Mr. Gillen if he wants to add some more input. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, and really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this experience. In more than 2 decades of being in Taunton Public Schools and at Taunton High School, this is by far the most dramatic, impactful, and absolutely inspiring experience I've ever had. The opportunity to dream, who gets a grant to dream? I mean, it's just an amazing experience that we've had. I want to talk a little bit about the opportunity to work with the BAR Foundation, because they don't just give us money to go tour schools. They work with us to talk about identifying root causes. Those 3 questions that we had developed were all distilled from a massive amount of data. I've had the opportunity to look at more data, had more space because of the BAR Foundation grant to have real conversations with people all across the district. The conversations are richer, but they're also more diverse. They're including more teachers. I'm having more conversations with central office. This is a grant that the people know what they're doing. They really know how to foster a sense of trying to get to root causes, and we are really, truly, not just words, reimagining the high school while keeping the best parts of what's already there. So it's been a thrilling experience. I wanted to point out that some changes are already underway. So there have been things that we have done that, or that we have seen, that are ideas that we could just take and run with, that don't need a lot of preparation or things like that. And then there's giant, big picture stuff that we have a chance to really lean into and continue the work. And with the BAR Foundation, we'll be working in March to create a more formal proposal and sort of a bigger bite of the apple. So we will be in touch with you about what we have determined is a launch point. If we have a good proposal, they will fund that too. So not only do we get to look at best practices all across the country, but if we're successful, we have a chance to implement a change. Mrs. Sarabian said that data screamed at us. The things that we heard were uniform. We heard the same kinds of things from teachers, from administrators, and from students, and from the community. And so that gives us a lot of hope that, we're on the right track towards fixing it. And I'm really proud of the fact that our current administration and our Mr. Cabral and Superintendent's office and high school administration has the opportunity to transparently look at things that we want to work on to get better. It's been a totally thrilling experience. The last thing I want to say is Mr. Leonard was talking a lot about student voice. This is a process that's a whole community voice, right? So one of the things we heard over and over again from successful school districts is, and Mr. Holcomb said it right in the beginning, it takes a village. So the integration, the mission, when the students are saying the same thing as the superintendent, as the same thing as the high school administration, man, that's a recipe for success. And that is the path that Barr Foundation has put us on. So I'm thrilled to be a part of it. I can't tell you how exciting it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gillen. So as he shared, as we progress through our dream phase, we are nearing the end of that, and we are going into our planning phase. And when you ask all of our stakeholders, including our district level folks that were part of our BAR team and our staff and our students, our focus is really going to be on collaboration, climate and culture, and enhancing our college and career readiness. Our 3 questions are going to guide our plan, but the BAR Foundation has empowered us right now to start to experiment with some of these things, and we are super excited to share just a few of them at this time. So on Friday, we are super excited that we are going to have an author and a former principal and superintendent who's going to share on culture. He wrote the book Culturize, and we had a book study in the district led by Ms. Moynihan, and we are super excited to have him, and he's going to kick that off to enhance culture and climate in our school. Additionally, he is going to offer a session for district leaders and Taunton High leaders, and we are super excited about that. Something else that we are going to do in the next couple months is just enhance our PLC professional development. We have partnered with Solution Tree, who's going to come in and really demonstrate how we can maximize our PLC process so that we get the biggest bang for our buck and we really enhance student learning at Taunton High School. One of the other bright points that we saw in California was a district that really empowered teachers to go ahead and showcase the teachers that have high impact strategies and use them as demo classes for other staff to continuously learn. We would like to pilot that also at Taunton High School. When we look at our culture and climate, we have already done some great things. We have reimagined our college and career space using some of our grant funding, and our hope is to continue to do that so that we can house our large amount of college and career classes that are going to happen next year. Additionally, we are looking to revitalize some collaborative space at our school and enhance some of our student supports. One thing that Mr. Leonard extended on was crew and enhancing advisory, and we love that idea. We know that is something that is going to take some time. One aspect of empowering students, though, that we feel we can do now is called a program called Link Crew. And it's a more formalized program that we saw in California. And it's really using our students to kick off what 8th grade orientation is all about and empowering them to lead the charge. We know that will work at Taunton High because we have a very successful Tigers Together program, and we believe that this is just going to further extend the group of students that we have who really want to make an impact with their voice. And then additionally, we have middle school, a bridge to middle school, where our associate principals are working alongside middle school assistant principals to connect and make sure that the transition from middle to high school is done in a way that supports all students. Next, I'm going to call up Greg Gay, our guidance director.
All right, thank you for allowing us to present tonight, and I'm just going to follow up with the last C of the BAR grant, and that's the College and Career Readiness Plan. So one of the things that we're going to bring back from California is we're going to start to implement the AVID program, which stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. And that is going to be a school-wide kind of program where you're going to start to see teachers use a common language dealing with even just some of the core academic readiness skills. It's called the WICR acronym, can't tell you what it stands for off the top of my head, but it's going to start to build a system-wide, a school-wide language that we're going to use. But that's just part of the beauty of Avid. It is a module base that's online, so all of our teachers will have access to use it. So it's not just something that certain departments might be able to use. It's going to really be school-wide. It's going to help us to strengthen our current Chapter 74 programs. It's going to help support our college students that are taking our early college classes that Mrs. Golder is going to touch on in a few minutes. But it also provides a social emotional component that when Taunton High School is ready to start up our advisory program again, we're going to have the materials that we need to do that. So I think bringing back Avid is certainly something that is going to help us out a lot. So that kind of segues into the next part of the presentation, which talks about our early college program at Taunton High School. So early college is not necessarily new to Taunton High School, but what we're doing with it this year is certainly it's like on steroids. It's new on steroids. So what you're looking at is our new College and Career Center. So if you haven't been to Taunton High School lately, that is half of our library is now turned into our College and Career Center. The furniture that you see there was paid for from the Part A grant of one of the early college grants that the school applied for and received earlier. So that's really kind of phase one of our reimagining what our college and career space will look like. It provides a place, obviously, for students to take their college classes, for some small study groups to happen. So it's really great to see it in action. I mean, that picture speaks to 1,000 words right there. It's a great opportunity for our students to have a space to get that work done. So part of the early college designation is we need to we applied for the grant. We're going to hear soon about the whether or not we received it, but we had to design our program around these 5 principles from DESE. It's going to be providing equitable access for all of our students. We're going to strengthen our academic pathways. We're going to enhance our student support. Again, that's part of the AVID program. Stronger connections to career, so we're going to start to offer college courses that really connect to what our students need to become great employers in a local community. And we're going to strengthen the relationships that we have with our higher ed partners. So again, we're going to find out on March 20th that we have good news, and our Part B application will have been approved from DESE, and that will become an official high school early college designation. That will help us to continue to grow our program to align with the 5 guiding principles, to help promote new college programs, and also just to help to improve our quality and access to our post-secondary plans. The Part B partner for this particular grant would be with Bristol Community College, and we're going to offer a liberal arts transfer courses. So starting next year, we'll have about 50 students. That's going to continue to grow. Mrs. Golder, again, will touch upon that in a few minutes. But the goal is when those next year's freshmen become seniors, they're going to leave Taunton High School with 30 college credits at Bristol Community College, that they're all transferable to state schools in Massachusetts. So they're going to align with courses they need in college. It's going to align with stuff that they're interested in. So when they cross that stage at Taunton High School and receive the City of Taunton's diploma, they're also going to have 30 college credits in their pocket that they can take with them. So I think that's just an amazing opportunity to think 5 years from now what that might look like. We also have a great partnership right now with UMass Dartmouth because we are part of their incubator grants. So we are currently offering some early college courses through UMass Dartmouth where our students are able to leave Taunton High School with between 12 and 15 college credits, depending on how many classes they take with us at UMass Dartmouth. So to kind of talk about how that looks on a day-to-day basis and how that is actually happening at Taunton High School, our College and Career Counselor, Mrs. Gold, is going to kind of come up and expand upon that a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. Gay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Allie Golder, as Mr. Gay said, and I'm the new College and Career Counselor at Taunton High School. It's nice to meet you all. New faces, anyways. So we are so excited, and hopefully in my next couple slides you can see my excitement and my passion for this. I am so fortunate to witness early college on a daily basis because it's in my space in the College and Career Center. So you're probably like, what does that look like? What does the day-to-day look like? So just in case you haven't heard about early college before, our students, so Taunton High School students, they take these college courses either through Bristol Community College or UMass Dartmouth during the school day. It's free completely to them. So their tuition, their fees, their books are all included through the grants that we have received. And they earn said college credits towards their future education, hopefully. Our classes take place during the normal school day. So any student, it's equitable to all of our students. And in order to make sure our students are successful, what we've really been trying to put in is more wraparound supports. So we have a Taunton High School teacher assigned to every course. So they're also there with me every day with the students, making sure they're signing on, making sure their assignments are getting completed, making sure that they're able to log in even onto the Zoom to work with their professor. So really adding those supports is huge. Like Greg mentioned, our higher ed partners right now are BCC and UMass Dartmouth. And we're hoping with this new early college designation, we will be the 59th school in the state of Massachusetts. So right now, there are only 58 other high schools in Massachusetts that have this DESE designation. So hopefully, good news on March 20th, so then we can continue to elaborate on some of this work. I just wanted to kind of another look into what the day-to-day looks like. This was a recent campus visit we took to UMass Dartmouth. They treated us like, we were so special, which was awesome for our students. They gave every kid a free sweatshirt, which they've been rocking at school, which is awesome, including, I got a sweatshirt too, which was really cool. Under $50. And they were invited to sit in on a lecture of their choice. So they went to an actual college course while we were there. They also treated us to lunch, which was wonderful. But I think the most important part, and I know a picture says, 1,000 words, but what you might not see here is so many of these students had never even been on a college campus before. So having the opportunity to get them on campus, show them what it's like, even just kind of treat them to like a special day, gave them the confidence and hopefully will continue to propel them to know that they can go to college, that this is an option for them, and we will provide the supports. So I kind of just wanted to give a little picture for you guys to see it. And then for any of the math people out there who like statistics and projections, I figured, maybe Donna Shavs, I figured this information is always nice to have. So currently this school year, we have 93 Taunton High School students enrolled in some early college course. Of those, 16 of those students are taking more than one course, so we actually have 109 enrollments. These are a couple of the courses we're offering this school year already, so like Greg had mentioned, they are all mass transferable, intro to sociology, introduction to arts and sciences, so these courses are, it means something, right? But I guess the biggest piece we really want to touch upon is the future projections. So next year, we really are aiming now with these new programs for 275 students in the program. But really what to note is in that school year of 27, 28 school year, we really are aiming to get 650 students in this program. And I mention that because that would be about 25% of our high school. So to say that 25% of the Taunton High School graduates are leaving our school with 30 possible free college credits is truly just so impressive. And it goes to show with the work, with the people sitting behind me, and also your support, what we can do and transform for this program. So if any questions at the end, I'm happy to answer as well, but we just wanted to kind of touch upon that. And I think I'm welcoming Mr. Gay back to talk about student support services. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Golder.
Welcome.
Just bringing us to the final portion of the school improvement plan, talk about Taunton High School student support services, and I think it's just important at this point to kind of to mention that a lot of the mental health and social emotional needs of students across the district, teachers are the first line of defense to some degree, right? So those are the relationships that get built first, and I think at Taunton High School we have such a great large number of amazing teachers that really focus on that and start that connection in the classroom. And for those folks that were able to watch Mr. THS last night or attended Mr. THS will be able to watch it in the future, one of the more special moments of Mr. THS is when the contestants bring up adults and teachers to thank and to recognize for the support that they've given them over the years at Taunton High School. And I wish we had an opportunity to kind of do that more for great teachers like Mr. Lennon, Mrs. Sarabian, and a bunch of the other ones that we have at in the building. So I really think that as we talk about other things that we offer as students, it really starts in the classroom, and the teachers do a fantastic job. Most of what you're going to hear and have already heard are initiatives that are starting this year. And we've gone through a lot, and we're building on things that have existed, we're taking them to the next level. So really just to keep that in mind as we're going through the last portion of this is how much of this is new this year and how much we've undertaken. So one of the things that we've started is the Taunton High School mental health team. The district started a mental health team last year under the supervision of Dr. Watt. We started our mental health team at Taunton High School towards the end of last year, and it has continued strongly through this year. We do meet twice a month, and it really encompasses everybody. We have school counselors, we have school adjustment counselors, we have folks from the Access Center, we have nurses, we have our school psychologists, we have representation from the curriculum supervisors, and we also have associate principals. So it's really an opportunity to sit down and discuss what the mental health needs are in the building. It gives us a chance to teamwork with everybody, so not just working with silos. These are students that we share, so it's just a great opportunity to do some teamwork, talk about changes that the building needs, what's the pulse of the building, and it's just a great opportunity to get together, something that we look forward to twice a month. The next piece I think Principal Holcomb's going to talk a little bit about is the social emotional groups that were started.
So things we're talking about during this presentation, again, were all kind of spearheaded and started this year. So you can see the number of things we actually are undertaking this year successfully. So right here, we have 19 people in our school right now that run these groups for the students. They took a survey, the CELIS survey. You can see it in the last bullet right there, the Social and Emotional Learning Indicator System survey. What it did was it talked about where students may need some supports that wouldn't otherwise be identified. Those students are then contacted with their parents to see if they want to take part in a support group to bolster any of the 5 pie pieces you see on the right-hand side. Maybe a student needs more help with their own social awareness. They don't realize that sometimes some of the things they're saying or doing are interfering with others' learning. And the parent and student may participate in a group that helps them sort of recognize where they're at to enhance the learning opportunities there. So that's brand new this year. Dr. Linda Watt and her team helped to make that happen for us. And so it's something they're really proud of, and we're seeing some changes. They take that survey again, so we get to see positive growth or areas of concern still to make a gap analysis to make more changes happen. So it's not just a one-time hit. This goes on year in and year out. Next piece right here. We have the Kyle Cares and the JED Foundation. What that was really is the Kyle Cares Foundation is Kyle Johnson. The family, Jimmy Johnson and his wife over out of North Attleboro, had lost to their son tragically to suicide, along with the JED Foundation. What it's really about is mental health awareness to break down the kind of the negative connotations that come with mental health supports. Sometimes people don't see it the same way as we do a regular cold or flu, but it's sort of break down those walls that sort of make people feel like they shouldn't be having certain feelings. And so we've partnered with the JED Foundation that's coming in to assess where our school is at. And I just mentioned the word gap analysis. They show us where our strengths are. They show us where our areas of improvement need to be. They help us develop a plan in year 2. They come back in year 3 and do analysis again to say how well you did fixing some of the areas that needed to be bolstered. So real positive things there. And then we have one more piece to this puzzle, these last 2 slides you have right here. We have reset rooms over at the high school. They're part of our multi-tiered systems of support for interventions for students. Here to talk about the reset room, one of them is going to be Greg, and I'll bring us home with the last slide. We talk about Bright with the Tier 3 intervention. Greg?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the district started reset rooms in all of the buildings this year. Taunton High School has 2. They are fully staffed with a teacher, an academic tutor, and a social worker. One social worker that bounces back between both rooms. But it does offer Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports for students that are kind of displaying maladaptive behaviors in the classroom. If they need a place to go to get some of their classwork done, that's an acquired spot, but then to work on their behaviors and come up with a plan to reintegrate them back into the classroom. So that they're not missing that valuable academic time. So they're not just getting sent out of the classroom and they have to sit in their associate principal's office. There is a place to go in the building that they can get some support and some work done. And I think that one of the secondary benefits of the reset room, I guess, is a good way to do it. Mrs. Moynihan can attest to this a little bit, that back in the day, the Taunton High School Guidance Department, we did things extremely well, but there were certain things that we didn't do well. One of the things that we did not do well was to hold a lot of child study meetings and to help talk about students that need support. And what the reset room has kind of forced us to do is to hold those student support team meetings, because in order to access the reset room, you need a student support plan. So we are having student support meetings up the wazoo this year, which I think is amazing. It's a chance to have school counselors, access center people, psychologists, everybody kind of getting together and talk about students, teachers come down, and really make an appropriate plan for that student to succeed. So something that we kind of lacked a little bit in the past, and I think the reset room has forced us to do, and we're seeing the benefits. And to bring us through the last slide is back to Mr. Holcomb.
Speaking of the wazoo, we had the Bright Company come in, and we have a grant that we received from Bright to provide our last highest tier intervention called Tier 3 interventions. Our students with the most dire need of supports would be part of this program right here. And we can put some things in place and make some thoughts about it. Maybe there is a child who was moving, and this happens often in schools, from hospitalization to home, back to school. The transition can be very challenging. And so this room and the people in this room are highly trained professionals that help with the transition for those students that have gone through things in their lives that they need just a little bit more support. That's through the Department of Mental Health we received that, and that's a $250,000 grant we received this year. What you've seen in this presentation tonight is a culmination of well over $500,000 in competitive grant money that the high school has driven into itself to help students through a bunch of different kind of conduits. Those conduits, those pathways are still open. So I want you to know that the things you're seeing today are put into the bedrock of the high school and shouldn't change, because those grant opportunities, though competitive, are still present for us. Though this is 2 years, this year and next year with Bright, we've been told that through DMH, the Department of Mental Health, that they should still be there in preceding years. So it's important to recognize that. Along with early college, that isn't going away. That money is there for us to have in perpetuity. All right, it's not just going to disappear. So you saw the increases in the students attending that. So it's important to drive that home. All happening this year, all happening with teamwork and effort, all happening with your help and the help of all these people and all the people that they represent. So thanks for listening to us. I know it was deep. I know it was rich, but it's a huge high school with huge responsibilities. So thanks for everything. And thank you, Superintendent Cabral, for all your opportunities you afforded to me and everyone else.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Holcomb. What an excellent presentation from your whole entire team. And, it's very comprehensive, and I think everybody here can just say how impressed we are at how many needs you're meeting on how many levels for so many students here at Taunton High and in our school system. So thank you. And I will open it up in case anyone has any comments or questions. Mr. Laura?
Very detailed, very deep, and very interesting, because not only do we as educators offer ample opportunities with ample diversities of challenges which most students face as they learn, but as presenters, each one of you gave your true feeling of how you got out of this, through your traveling, through your exposure, what students said, and other facilitators and other educators throughout the country. But it's amazing that now we have these resources to advance any given educational system, to allow the student to better himself or herself in their educational learning. What I like also, the fact is that these grants will be continuous, properly filled out with the, with the justified credit information. But I like to see this, because these are things that parents will say, wow, that system is really trying to make my student the best student possible. So thank you for that, and I welcome it strongly.
Thank you, Mr. Laura.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Laura. Mrs. Shops?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Excellent job. As a person who's been at Taunton High School my whole career, I'm very proud of you guys. And all of this that I've seen has been since I've retired in the last 2 years, which shows how much work you guys have done to really hone in on the different types of students that we have. So kudos to all of you, because every time I see something, it makes me very proud. I did have one particular question, just for a clarification, I think, for parents out there that are looking at this. The early college courses that these kids are taking, Are these above the courses that are requirement courses, or are these in lieu of those courses?
The way I understood that would be both.
Both? Okay.
Some are requirement courses and cover certain graduation requirements, and some are also elective courses.
So they can double dip?
They can also double dip. And one thing we want to make sure that we drive home is that these courses, and it was under the direction and careful articulation of Carolyn Blano, working with the state, every course that's offered under early college is 100% transferable. What you see at other schools, other high schools, is that they may offer classes that are unique to a particular college, but only that college, and they're not transferable anywhere else. So what they do, and that's a technique for business for colleges, right? Offer certain things to kids, 4 or 5 classes that are unique to that one college, and kids have this natural pull to attend that college because they don't want to lose those credits.
Exactly.
This case right here, it's good for all colleges across the Commonwealth.
I also think it goes on to what Mr. Cabral said earlier about Taunton. What did you say, 25% have college degrees? 22%. And I think this is a way to ensure that we're building college graduates in our own town. I mean, if a kid can come out of Taunton High School with, you know, a year of college or a semester of college, that's going to be a driving force for them to go, and that's going to make the city better. So,
Thank you. Well said.
outstanding.
Okay, thank you, all right.
Just one more question, along with what you're
Mr.
saying.
Laura?
Ms. Sharps. You said any college or university, the accreditation will be accepted?
I should have said state.
Private-
I want to make sure, no, so I did miss one word. Thank you for calling me out on that. It is state.
Yeah, that's
So
what
it's
I
a
wanted to
state of
clarify.
Massachusetts. Thank you
Yes.
for asking that.
Any college or
That's
university within the state structure.
correct.
Thank you.
State, college, university, yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And of course, we want to also recognize Superintendent Cabral for his leadership as well. It all starts at the top, so thank you, Superintendent Cabral, and I know you wanted to make a few
No,
comments.
thank you, Madam Mayor. So I just want to emphasize, too, that if you look at our strategic plan, there is a strong connection to our strategic plan, to the four items in our strategic plan. But I also want to emphasize, too, as educators, we don't often take the time to get out of our fishbowl. No, our fishbowl is our classroom, our fishbowl is our school, our fishbowl is our district. But when you're able to explore and see other best practices and bring those back to our community, it's only going to enhance and make our craft better and stronger. And Mrs. Shabs, you're right, 2 years, a lot of work gets done. So when you work or operate with a sense of urgency and you have a sense of purpose, right, because 180 days is not a lot of time with kids. So when you operate with a sense of urgency, a sense of purpose, you can accomplish a lot of great works. And I'm happy to see this great team, and I know this great team is only going to get bigger because we have a lot of work ahead of us to reimagine the high school to where we believe it will be in the future.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cabral.
Quick question, I'm sorry. one
Mr.
more
Laura?
question. Pertaining, DESI, do they have to verify this or every single year for these grants to be approved and utilized?
So I
by-
thought, my reading of the grant, I'll ask Carolyn to make sure that I say it right, was that once we get accepted into the system for this like early college, big C college, early college, little c. The early college, big C is a designation by DESI that we receive, and once we're in, I thought we were in. Am I mistaken with that? Can you speak to that?
So it's kind of twofold. We have our UMass and our BCC partnership. Our BCC partnership is our designation partnership, so we'll hear March 20th. But for the perpetuity of having kids go through that program, and they're going to start in the 9th grade, and they're going to do it for 4 years and walk away with 30 credits, that is going to be paid for indefinitely as long as we continue to do that process. We followed the application plan exactly as Desi asked for. We've gone through multiple interview steps. We've gone through multiple trainings and webinars to make sure that we are in line with everything that they've suggested. And so we'll hear back really soon, and we've been told it will be positive. So that is something that Desi is going to continue to support us with.
Thank you for the clarification.
Of course.
Okay, all
Thank you,
right.
Madam.
Thank you, and thank you all for joining us this evening. There is no action necessary on item E, so if everyone is all set, we can move to item F.
Thank you, everyone. Again, outstanding presentation. Thank you, team. Thank you. So, and we'll be sure to share this presentation on our website as well. So as one of our goals when we came out of our most recent retreat, we have taken on the challenge of forming a school committee book club. You all have received a copy of the book, The Governance Core, written by Davis Campbell and Michael Fullen. Knowing that you all have very busy schedules, and some of you, because of your schedules, don't often have the time to read, I've taken the liberty of summarizing the introduction in the first chapter, and also provided you with three thoughtful questions that we can engage in just a quick conversation, healthy conversation, and then the goal will be next month, we'll cover chapters. I'd like to try to cover chapters 2 and 3, but again, we'll see how this goes tonight, and we'll take it from there. So in the introduction chapter, titled Politics, Governance, and School Improvement, the Governance Core highlights the importance of improving governance in our public education system, given the significant challenges facing our society and the critical role education plays in addressing these issues. The authors of this book present a telling case that supports this need. The authors argue for a transformative approach to governance, moving beyond the traditional practices to establish a model grounded in effective decision-making, leadership, and action. The new model of governance proposed by the authors emphasizes the creation of a unified strategic approach that supports significant improvements in student learning and their well-being, while stressing the need for a shared moral imperative. And hearing the presentation tonight around the early college, the mental health supports, and reimagining the high school, I can't help but think that the high school is starting to develop that moral imperative that they will use to drive their work. So it's interesting that the book talks about this, and we also just saw this with the high school as a driver for the change they want to see. In the first chapter, it introduces the concept of the governance core, which is grounded on a cohesive, unified team of school board members and superintendents working together with a common vision driven by a shared moral imperative. This vision focuses on the governance system's responsibility to all children and the community it serves, highlighting the role of governance in setting direction, ensuring strategic alignment, and providing community leadership. The authors highlight the current societal changes, such as growing inequity, stress and anxiety among youth, and declining trust in institutions. They argue that education stands as a crucial institution capable of making a significant difference, advocating for effective governance at the local level to harness new educational ideas and foster deep learning for all students. This book also addresses the overlooked and underutilized role of governance in education reform and improvement. It suggests that many school boards and superintendents lack a clear understanding and focus on effective governance, leading to missed opportunities for systemic change and progress. The authors distinguish between politics and governance and explore how these concepts are often intertwined in the field of education. They argue for good governance as a means to leverage well-intended policies, aiming for systemic improvements that combines political power with a governance core focused on results. So I won't read the last paragraph, but I did provide 3 questions, and if anyone would like to either answer one of the questions or just talk about their takeaways from the brief summary or from their readings, feel free to jump in. And again, the first question: how can the concept of a shared moral imperative transform the relationship and effectiveness of school boards and superintendents? What are the challenges and opportunities in establishing such a shared vision? What specific strategies and practices can help cultivate a governance mindset among school boards and the superintendent? And what steps can we take as a group to enhance our understanding of effective governance practices in our school system? Comments, questions? I don't know if the mayor needs to facilitate. We've never done a book study before, so I don't know if the mayor needs to moderate this.
Okay. Ms. Santos?
Start. Mr. Cabral, thank you. And thank you for the task of a book club, because, I love to read. And having the questions, I think, helped me kind of better formulate what I learned, because honestly, governance, when I heard that word, I never knew what it meant, but I always hear it all the time. So getting an understanding that it is this kind of the day-to-day activities that we do in order to govern this body, which is the school community, right? And so that moral imperative too, I think, just speaking to that obviously we need to make sure that we're all kind of on the same page as that moral imperative, which I think it's defined as what? A relentless commitment to the learning of all students, no exceptions. So obviously all of us together, families, teachers, all of that, having that shared definition and understanding, because I think we all come with our own perspectives as far as what that looks like and what that means, right? But the other thing that I thought was really important, one thing that I took away from it, was a couple of different things. On page 22, it talked about the need to pay attention to what's going on at state level, as well, that we operate in a local level, but there needs to be more partnership with the state level as well too. I mean, obviously with budget, that's obviously a big concern too, but I was just thinking of, you know, more recent legislation that is taking place in at the State House, like the Cherish Act, so on and so forth, that could actually impact our students, as well too, that maybe having more of a collaboration at the state level as well, or a better understanding of what's going on at the state level versus us just kind of considering what's going on with this community, right? Because the state actually has a lot of say with especially funding and things like that. But I know with like Maura Healy, I think she has this reading initiative that she's starting as well too. So that's something that, you know, she's pushing with her administration, so that I think obviously us being aware of that is really important because we can implement those things, as well too. Critiquing state policy, I mean, that's a whole other, you know, bag of stuff. But the other thing that I just wanted to mention too is that on page 21, they talk about working with regional and district entities as well too, because they talked about this leadership from the middle, as well, which I thought was really important because we're in the middle, right? If you think of state politics and then, you know, national politics, so on and so forth. So this idea that the leadership from the middle has three main components. They're interpreting state policy, so that kind of aligns with what I was just saying as far as knowing what's going on at the state level, but working laterally with other districts and regional entities to strengthen the middle. And I know you just went on these, you know, they went for these trips to see in Colorado and California, but also looking at, and not saying that they're all the best examples of that, I'm just thinking of Brockton and all the things that are going wrong in Brockton, but just seeing what's going on district-wise and regionally to kind of form some kind of collaboration or finding common ground, but that also ties into the state level as well too. So I thought that was the one thing that kind of really stuck out to me as I was reading. But I think as far as the steps that we as a group can take, obviously it's just more open communication of what our vision is, more consistency and being, you know, that we're all kind of on that same page. And one other thing that I just noticed too is that it's one thing to have these ideas, it's another thing to actually implement them. So it's more about action versus like, oh, these are the thoughts that I have, but how are we actually gonna put them into play? So I think the Taunton High, you know, all of those things that they're doing now, obviously it's a lot to take on at once, right? So how as the community can we help them kind of achieve all of those things as well too, so.
Okay, sure, Superintendent.
So I think you bring up some great points, and you've given me some thoughts. When I put together the Sunday newsletter about maybe including a section on state-level issues that the school committee should be aware of. So I'll be more cognizant of that. I do like the idea of how we can leverage our support as a school committee to support other school committees that may be struggling with issues that we've already addressed, or maybe we can learn from them in some of the issues that they are currently addressing. And I also think how we communicate as a group and how we ensure that we have that moral imperative is to continue holding our retreats, and to leverage the power of the subcommittees to take the action and the work that we want to see getting done. Because you're right, one person can't do it alone, but a subcommittee, and then bringing it to the regular committee, now we can see some impactful change. So great insights.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Fagan.
So, you said to start reading everything, so I read the forwards and all that other stuff. But, yeah, but you know what? It's funny how people glean different things out of what they're reading. And, you know, tonight we had an incident of something that, you know, we were talking about, one of them was talking about when people run for these offices, you gotta monitor commitments that have been made, because sometimes you just can't keep them. What you think you can do, you can't do. And the need to be informed, focused, and engaged. Relationships erode when information is not accurate. And we had a thing with that tonight over one of the bills payable thing about whether or not people knew the relationship. So I think sometimes we don't inform one another, or we need to talk to you before we come to a meeting and just something happens and but we've always talked about that. That's kind of in the venue of the no surprises arena, that you really, and I talked to you today about something that I found out that I thought that you should know. And I don't want to bring it out publicly, so that's, you know, there's things that I think we need to do as a committee. But, you know, there was a lot of things in there about the governance that, and I know what you meant, I said, what were they really talking about here, and the moral imperative that we all have, and I think we have to find the common ground. I truly believe in my heart that everybody that ran for this position cared about kids, and cared about the school committee, and cared about the people of Taunton, and we all want to do the best for the kids. And I think if we always keep that in our hearts, that that's what we're here for. I think a lot of times, you're talking about things at the state level and what's going on in different cities. I worry when you say something and you get attacked because you don't feel the same way, and that got brought up in this book too. It says, even the most aggressive trustee, and I can be aggressive at times, and I know that, you know, the representative of a minority view or opinion has important wisdom or perspective to offer. You have to be open to what a person is communicating. And for some reason, I pulled that out, because I know every now and then there's a little bit of friction, and you go, well, I don't feel that way, or I have a different experience. And I think if we look at all that, we can sit together and talk things out and not be upset about why people feel the way they do, because we all have different experiences in life, you know? I mean, I've had some that other people here haven't had, you know? So I think that I just want people to be respectful of one another, and I always try to say, hey, I don't agree with you, but I respect the fact that you have the right to make that opinion, and there's not enough of that lately. And there's contentiousness. You see it all around the country. People are so contentious when the opinions are different. So I tend to pull out things that I've experienced when, you know, and, you know, when I first got on the committee, I used to go at it with Dr. Croto. You know what I mean? I didn't philosophically agree with everything. And yet, despite it all, he understood the concept of you could agree to disagree. And he ended up becoming a very, very dear friend. And, you know, he was the last one to pass away from that, you know, that group, the three of them that I started with. And I felt really bad, because they were an impressive group. They could work with you and everything like that. And I think a lot of that's, in some ways, it's kind of dissipated. And you see it in all arenas of life now, that people just can't be a little bit better about things. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Mrs. Fagan. Superintendent, your mic's not on.
And I think, Mrs. Fagan, when I hear your comments, I think about, you know, the level of trust that we developed as a group through our relationships, whether it's during our retreats or breaking bread before the meeting, or on those road trips to go to different meetings or conferences. You know, relationships, trust, decorum. You know, it's a meeting in the public, not for the public. I mean, that's something that this school committee has said many times. And also the fact that if we do agree to disagree, once we've reached a consensus, you know, to borrow a line from Bill Belichick and the Patriots, we're on to Cincinnati. You know, we turn the page and we move on to the next item. So, you know, great points to bring up. So thank you.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Shall we move on? Okay. All right. Ms. Santos?
Thank you, Mrs. Snyder. And this is just something that I've been hearing from other people and things like that, but one question that came up on page 17 was, will the board own the programs they mandate, or will they be observers? I thought was really important as well too. So it's very easy where they say, some people just think of this job, you just come twice a month, you take votes, and then that's your job, right? And it's very easy to kind of think of it that way, right? So if we're doing these things, we're just observing, we're not really kind of owning these programs and owning the community and owning the issues and owning the thing that we, you know, we fund and things like that. And I just, it's just kind of side note, for the Reading Across America, I visited East Taunton Elementary on last Thursday. I read to 4 different third grade classrooms, which was absolutely fantastic, and I'm reading at Letty tomorrow. And I know that for me, one of the things was, I want to see the classrooms, I want to see the teachers, I want to see the students. Like, that was a big thing for me as far as running, because I want to feel connected to them in that way, and I guess maybe that's because I'm a teacher too, so it could be that. But I've heard from other people, and this is no critique or what have you, this is just me hearing that some people have just never visited the classrooms, and they want us to visit the classrooms. And they talk about some of the issues, and someone I saw yesterday at Mr. THS, actually, she's a kindergarten teacher. She says in the 10 years she's been teaching, nobody's ever seen her classroom. So I think sometimes there might be this disconnect between us as a body versus what's going on in the classroom, and I think it's best for us to know that and visually see that. I think we talked about that with the school improvement plans, maybe bringing that back to taking place at the school, because we're not seeing actually the practice that they're dealing with or what they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So that was just one other thing I wanted to bring up.
No, and that's a great point. I think that goes back to how do we leverage our subcommittees to ensure that everybody on the committee has an opportunity. And again, being cognizant and being mindful of everyone has different day jobs or different requirements during the day. So how do we work together as a group to fulfill that need and own the programs? Great point.
Mr. Cabral?
Okay, thank you. Mrs.
All right.
Bacon.
One other thing, when you were talking about that, about ownership of programs, we had to take ownership for the fact that we put in block scheduling years ago. And for a while, everybody was doing it, and, the more and more you looked at it, the more and more the issues started to become glaring, that we were missing things with kids. And I think what I like about being here is that you take ownership for it, and both Mr. Holcomb and the girl that used to be the assistant principal, Mrs. Keenan, went out to these different schools and put out this whole programmatic thing of what was wrong with how much the kids actually lost. They knew they lost time, and they never finished stuff, and they never got the whole program complete. And though you did add more courses, the content started to erode away, and we made the effort to do that, and that's why we did that last year. I think, as you were suggesting, maybe having an 8th grade academy, because those kids need something else too. We don't always know, and a lot of times I think, unfortunately, and they mentioned technology in here too, and one guy said, I think education's getting better, and I said, oh man, he can't be in the schools where we fight with all the technology. I mean, when you go in the school and kids are on cell phones in the corridor, you kind of go, or in the bathrooms, just it's over the top, and I know for you, he's wonderful. He said to me one day, I would never pull out my phone, but, it interferes with stuff, and I think sometimes kids get a little bit lazy. Well, I don't have to learn this because I can look it up on the phone. So there's a lot of things it brings up to me of things I've seen over the years, but I just wanted you to know that we try to correct the things that haven't been right. And, you find out and it was all done with good intentions. Everything you do was with good intentions until all of a sudden you go, uh-oh, this wasn't working quite well. So I'm done.
All right.
But I read it all, and I took notes, Mr. Cabral.
We see.
Give her an A.
Thank
Give
you,
her an
everyone,
A.
for your comments. There is no action necessary on that item. The next item is G, Administrative Business. 1, 2, and 3, I believe there would be a motion to receive and place on file. So what I'd like to do is go through
moved on that.
all of them if there's any comments first, and then we'll do the motion all at once.
All
Thank you,
right,
Mr.
very
Laura. Superintendent, do we have anything for 1, 2, and 3 that we need to discuss?
No, I provided everyone with the update on the staffing report, so you see what the vacancies are at the buildings and total for the district, and also provided you with an enrollment report. I'm very proud of the fact that our pre-K program for our 3- and 4-year-olds continues to grow. I'd just like to highlight that we currently have 414 students, so we picked up 10 more students in our pre-K program. So outstanding efforts on behalf of Mrs. Moynihan, Director of Student Services Stephanie Hoy, and Mrs. Amy Moynihan in Special Education Department, and Lisa Pereira, and our principals.
Thank you, Superintendent Cabral. Mr. Laura, do you have a motion?
I will continue with that motion.
Okay, so there's motion and second to receive and place on file. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed, so voted. Thank you. Next, we have a field trip request from DECA.
Move approval?
Motion and second. On discussion, no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed, so voted. And we also have a field trip request from the Key Club.
Move approval?
Motion and second on discussion. If there's no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed, so voted. Thank you. Now we have subcommittee reports, finance and law. Is there somebody that would be doing that? Okay,
No,
Mrs.
she's
Shavs.
the only
Thank you,
one here
Mrs. Shavs.
who's not there.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So tonight we met with the Finance and Law Subcommittee. We had 6 things on the agenda. So the first item was the faculty update, facilities update, sorry. Mrs. Monahan presented the work order update from Mark Freitas. There was a total of 1,718 work orders. 1,300 of them are school-related, which is 76% of the orders. The Shav's motion to place it on file, it was approved 2-0. Second thing up was the use of facility. Mrs. Monahan presented the use of facility summary. 3 organizations are using Taunton High School. 2 organizations are using Friedman. Shav's motion to place it on file, it was a 2-0 approval. Number 3 was a request to bid cafeteria supplies. Mrs. Monahan presented a memo from the food services to go out to bid for bread, groceries, and milk, which will expire on June 30th of 2024. Shav's motion to authorize the superintendent to start the bidding process, it was approved 2-0. Number 4 was a request to dispose of surplus supplies. Mrs. Monahan presented 4 sets of old science books for disposal. We're going to check to see if any local organizations want them. Shav's questioned that the books are too old to sell. Mrs. Monahan was affirmative with that. Shav's motion to dispose textbooks after seeking organizations who may be interested in them for free. It was a 2-0 approval. Number 5 was a donation. Ms. Monahan presented a donation of $3,960 from the National Science Teaching Association to be used for 2 teachers to attend a national conference in Denver, Colorado in March. Taunton Public Schools would pay for flight, which would be $600 per teacher, and any other incidentals, along with covering their classes. Shav's motion to approve this trip, it was not approved. There was a split vote of 1-1. Number 6 was bills payable. Taunton Public Schools school invoice warrant. Shav's question cost on page 3 of the Arts for Learning in Massachusetts. This was a Letty presentation. Page 4, Babazon light cost. This was an update to lighting in the Friedman Middle School Theater. And page 5, 11, and 18, which was professional development, which was quite costly, but it was development that had been previously done at the school already. Vieira question cost on page 16 of the Silver City Glass Incorporation. This high cost was for the new vestibules that are being put on in the schools. Shav's motion to accept and pay the warrant, total of $7,688. It was a 2-0 approval.
Thank you, Ms. Shavs. And I just want to clarify that that is the Finance and Law Subcommittee report from March 6, 2024, today.
Today,
Correct,
yes,
yes, okay.
correct.
All right. So,
We'll move acceptance of the report as presented.
Second.
motion and second. All those in favor?
Just on discussion.
Oh,
there
I'm
was-
sorry, on discussion,
there
Mr.
was
Enos.
I kind of sat through this meeting and I saw the donation one, and I don't know how the rest of the committee feels, but I don't feel that should have been denied. I think we should accept the donation and going forward and see what the rest of the board feels.
Okay, so would you like to pull that out as a vote
Yes,
for the
please.
full committee? Mr. Laura?
On that, so we're gonna make that a separate motion, or should we
Yes, so,
please do it?
right, so, Mr., would you mind rescinding your motion?
Motion to accept the report in absence to the discussion of Mr. Enos on that item of the,
Actually, if we could clear that up first, if you could just
Yeah,
just
what I wanted
withdraw
to
your
know-
your
Well, let's
motion.
withdraw that
Yeah, okay.
motion.
And then,
And
Mr.
then-
Enos, would you like to make a motion?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to accept the donation from the National Science Teaching Association in the amount of $3,960.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor.
second it.
And a second, thank
On
you.
discussion.
On discussion, Mr. Laura.
Past practice, what, has that been something that's been done in the past
This committee
as far as,
this committee minus Mrs. Shaw's and Mr. Santos.
Oh, your mic's not on, Superintendent.
So, I can think of two donations that this committee has accepted in the absence of Mrs. Shaw's and Mrs. Santos, who weren't at the committee at the time.
So this acceptance of, was it a nonprofit organization making a donation?
I'm not sure if they're a nonprofit or a for-profit, but they are, Mr. Barata can better
It's a
explain.
national foundation, and they offer a conference based upon the professionalism.
private national foundation.
Correct, that both of those educators in district have demonstrated themselves with Open Syed. They invited them to go out to the conference, one, to somewhat present, but also take part in professional learning, but then with the understanding that they come back and present their findings or whatever information out there. So it's not as if it's, say, a vendor bringing you out there and then expect you to come back and purchase textbooks from them. It's not. It's a truly professional learning opportunity. One, to showcase the talents of what our educators doing in Taunton, but also for them to bring back what they learn and then share it out through professional development on our days in district.
But aren't most of these, aren't they 501c3 national organizations that make this opportunity available to school systems, individuals?
As far as their standing, I can't answer that right now, but what I can say is that this committee, which you were part of at the time, did accept 2 previous donations from Nexus to send staff to Chicago for training that they would bring back.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Fagan?
I'll vote to do that because I don't want to lose an opportunity, and we will if we wait and try to.
Right, because of the time involved, yes.
And that's why, but, I think as long as we can get an answer for him.
Yeah, and we're also being transparent.
Yes,
This is why we brought it to the committee, so the public and the committee understands that we're receiving a donation. Mr. Barata has articulated what are the requirements, that this is not a vacation. These people are going there to learn, to train, and bring back, share our practices and bring back best practices, very similar to what we've done with Nexus.
Yeah, but just if he can have an explanation and, respect to his.
Yeah, and we'll also pull the backup from the previous
Right.
trips that were approved.
Okay.
Just
All
one
right,
more
excellent. So there's a motion and a second on the floor.
Just
Mr.
one more
Laura?
question. And that's because of the time limitations here. This is gonna occur within the next 2 or 3 weeks?
It's in March.
Yeah, so, okay, I understand. Thank you.
We
You're
won't
welcome.
have another meeting before then.
Right,
That's the
exactly.
problem.
Motion and second to accept the donation. Mr. Pulowski?
Does the movement, does the motion also, is this also to approve the additional costs that would be funded by the school
Yes.
system?
Out of the motion.
Part of the motion, okay, thank you.
Okay, so everybody's clear on the motion?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed? Motion passes.
I'm sorry, he voted present.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, I apologize. 1 vote present. Motion passes. Okay. And so is there a motion to accept the remainder of the report as presented?
So moved.
Second on that.
Motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed, so voted. We will go back to number 1, which was the Finance and Law Subcommittee from February 21st. You have a brief on that, Mrs. Fagan?
So, Mrs. Fagan, I think all you need to do is
Yes,
just
the
mention.
warrant, yes.
Correct.
We had a special meeting of the Taunton School Committee on February 21st, 2024, specifically a bills-only meeting. It was vacation week, nobody was around, but we have to get the bills paid. So between people being here and a Zoom meeting, we approved the warrant payment of $958,633.08 on that day, and we convened the meeting in short order, and it was done, the bills were paid.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Fagan.
Move approval of the recommendation or the,
Second.
Motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed, so voted. Number 2 is special meeting of the Taunton School Committee. Do we have anyone to give a brief on that?
Mrs. Fagan, we convened in a special meeting and approved the warrant.
Oh, so that's the same.
Oh, is
okay.
that what it, I'm sorry.
That's the second one.
Oh.
We have to report out that we had a regular meeting after the finance.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Gotcha.
All right.
Yep. we
So what he said? No.
can- You did such a good job, ditto. Thank you.
And, okay.
It's all set, all those in
Just
favor?
repeat, just mention that there was, so after the finance and law meeting,
Right, we had a special meeting where we approve the bills payable in the amount of $958,633.08.
Second.
And that was unanimous.
Okay. Need a motion.
Make the motion, and I'll second it.
Oh, I thought that was the motion, I'm
No,
sorry.
she
That was the
presented it.
report, we
All
just
right,
need the
move
motion.
approval.
Yeah.
Move approval.
Somebody like to second it?
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none opposed, so voted. Athletic Subcommittee, Mrs. Fagan.
I don't know if I want to do that after this, because this is a This is a very long, we had a subcommittee meeting with the athletic subcommittee on March the 4th, this past week, with Mark Ottavianelli, and he wanted to give us an update on everything that's been going on so this is a little bit lengthy, and I'll go as quick as I can. So he was here with Michael Fox, who you all know is the voice of Taunton High. And the first thing he reported out to us is they are in the process, they've already formed a Hall of Fame committee. But the update on it is that, Michael Fox did a lot of the research for it, told us how far back we were playing football, back in the 1800s at Taunton High, that there's a whole bunch of athletes that we don't even, know that were here, but he said he spent a lot of time in the library and the Historical Society, and he's getting all that stuff together. He met with different people that are involved with Hall of Fames. They talked about drafting bylaws, having the committee, and the meetings they're supposed to have, and they're planning to have this first induction on Saturday, November 9th. So they've been really working hard at this, but he said one of the gentlemen that came down which was involved in setting up a couple of Hall of Fames, looked around at the high school, and Mike was so proud of the fact that he said, you have everything here. You don't have to go out and rent a hall somewhere or do any of that stuff. You've got a beautiful cafeteria, you got a program in the schools that they can make the food. The gentleman apparently was very impressed with the banners that you put up in the back of the school. All the ones that have all the different stuff like that. And the gentleman was just so impressed with everything he saw there. So Mike was very upbeat about that, but that's in the works right now. Do you want to add anything to that, Mr. Cabral? Or? Okay. The next one, number 2, was the strength and conditioning coordinator, Cabrini Gonzalez, who was a great football player here, went off to, he was 2011 graduate at Taunton High School, went off to college. Now he's back helping the kids with training and rehabbing he's helping with the athletic trainers. So he's minimum 3 times a week in the off-season. They go down to the weight room. They two times per week when they're in season. He works in conjunction with the athletic trainers for rehabbing the student athletes. He sees an average of 80 athletes per day. So I guess that program is really working out well, and it's also teaching the kids how to move and everything so they really don't injure themselves. And he's going to do some future presentations. Also something going on with nutrition, Mark Masterson, Glenn Motta, Catherine Latimer. This is in coinciding with the USDA National School Lunch Program, September 2024. And they're going to start providing after-school snacks because of the times when the kids eat lunch in the high school, so they have stuff to go on the bus with and all those different things. So they're talking about chocolate milk and beef jerky. Not my idea of a great lunch, but that's, I'm not an athlete either. And some protein stuff, and there's also an educational component with these students about what they should be eating to maintain their optimum performance. So that program is also going on, and they're talking about having some of the people in that do the school thing that we do there outside. Those people would probably make some of this stuff for us. And there's a South Coast YMCA grant, and that's for going on, I forgot what that was.
That would be to help fund the food that gets
Oh,
made
that's right.
by the
Yeah,
kids
fund the
in
food.
Tiger Den.
Okay. There's also an athletic department standard that NEASC is collaborating, and Mark's been doing a lot with that, about having standards for how the athletic department should be run. And they're going to pilot that program here in the spring. There's going to be a presentation in Hyannis in November, and to the Mass Association of School Superintendents on July 17th, 2024. So they really think there needs to be a guideline for how athletic departments are run and things like that. So the NEASC oversees an awful lot of things. Any more comments on that?
No, you nailed it. Keep
Okay.
going, you're on a roll.
All right, the next one. Addressing hate in school sports was held at Northeastern University. There was a student-athlete session, a coaching staff session, and a student-athletes train the trainer session, spring 2024. And he said it was remarkable to go there because they really need to talk about things going on. And you had gotten engaged in this thing, if you would like to talk about what he was.
No, it just comes down to, sportsmanship.
Yes.
And as a team, when I think about sportsmanship, I also think about how the students treat the younger students,
Right.
how the upperclassmen treat the younger students or student athletes. So it also addresses hazing. So it's about being a good athlete, being a good mentor, and sportsmanship.
Yeah, and at that point, too, I had talked about having been present at the football, when they gave the awards for the football team, and I'm there because I'm given one in memory of my son. But I was saying at the meeting, I could not believe the kindness those kids showed to one another. You would never even know. They were all different nationalities and everything in that room because they all got along so well. And to me, that's a tribute to the football coach because that's the behavior he expects. The next one, they've been doing a Taunton High School officiating class. All right, so they're having people that are doing soccer, that officiate soccer and baseball. That's what they've been doing for this time. I'm sorry, basketball, not baseball. So it's been soccer and basketball. These kids go in, they show them, and Mark started this, and he's very happy with this. So these kids, they go out and listen to this, you can't believe this. Our kids are officiating Taunton Public Schools soccer and basketball games. Franklin, probably the middle school more for the basketball. Franklin Public Schools has hired them. Taunton Youth Soccer has hired them. Metro West Basketball has hired them. Taunton Park and Rec has hired them. And Rainham Park and Rec has hired them. So these kids are doing a great job. And the school department has paid out $9,691 in total for the coaching. And the kids have put $3,399, so it's.
The kids have generated over
9,000, yeah.
3,000 of that 9 came from us that we would have to pay anyway.
Yeah, that we're gonna have to pay. So what a great opportunity for these kids to have that. And I remember my kids used to do that at Taunton West Little League, and they used to go and, after they got out of Little League, they learned how to be umpires. And he said that's what the next thing they plan on doing is teach them how to hire to be a ref in baseball. And the last thing I had, two more things. The Jack Tripp softball stadium renovation update, Mr. Ottavianelli had told Mr. Cabral that day. He said, I forgot to tell you, they were out measuring the field this afternoon. So that's underway now because they want to enhance that field, widen it out, do a parking lot, everything, right? This is going to go out there. So we made a motion, Mr. DeMello and Ms. Santos, they both made a motion to refer that to the Long Range Planning Subcommittee. So a couple of you are on that, right? So that they can look over that to see what they're doing. And there was also an update on, the rules update to, what was that one for? Use of facilities. That was another thing that was referred to rules because we're letting so many people use our fields now because they're such good fields that we want to have an update on how, raising the fees or something like that, or just looking over at the regular fees. There's also another announcement here. Rui Estrella, he was a soccer coach at Massasoit and a longtime soccer coach in New Bedford.
He resigned, not just from Massasoit.
Just-
He resigned from his Massasoit position to coach our boys.
Okay, so I don't know what new bays means. I can't read your writing. It's probably.
New beige.
I wasn't sure. That's what I thought, but I wasn't
I
sure.
love it.
New boys soccer coach.
Oh,
Okay, the new,
not new beige. I did.
no, he runs a couple of the letters together. He's going to be the new boys soccer coach at Taunton High School, so very proud of getting this gentleman too. So we've got a bunch of outstanding coaches. And with that, I guess that's this report.
Move the acceptance of the report with the recommendations to be submitted to the appropriate long-range planning.
Thank God for you, Mr. Laura.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed, so voted. Next is High School Committee. Mr. Pulowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Christina, you sure you don't want to give this report too?
I'm reported out.
All right. I'll give you a break.
Thank you.
So this evening, the high school subcommittee convened at 4:44 p.m. On the agenda was the school improvement plan for Taunton High School, entitled Reimagining Taunton High School. And they brought the whole squad with them to give the presentation. So we had Scott Holcomb, Carolyn Blano, Greg Gay, Peter Gillen, Allie Golder, Lee LaFave, Stephanie Littlefield, Herbert Leonard, and Karen Sarabian. And it was really impressive to see all of these professionals around the room, because the amazing amount of work that they did, really mostly this year, it takes that whole village to get that done. So all of them and their teams, they gave the presentation that we all saw today, so I won't rehash everything. But the bottom line is there's a number of grants that Taunton Public Schools collaborated, sought out, applied, and received. Highlighted amongst them is the Barr Foundation grant, BARR. It's a $100,000 grant, and we were one of 8 schools out of thousands that applied for that. And the bottom line is they're sending out teams of teachers and professionals out to school districts all across the country to learn best practices and bring them back. So it's really amazing to hear how they're spreading that work, and certain teachers are going to certain visits, some are going to others, but they all come back, bring back the training. So it's just really, really great. And at the end of the day, I think Superintendent Cabral summarized it the best. All this work we're doing is reimagining how we teach these kids, dismantling the factory school system that we used to have and going more towards trying to harness the curiosity that all kids have when they first go to school. Every kid when they go to school loves learning. So how do we capture that, foster it, and bring it all the way through to high school by looking at different methods? And it was really great. So that was the presentation, and we adjourned the meeting at 5:34.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Pulowski.
Motion to accept the report.
Second that.
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed, so voted. New business is next. Taunton Public Schools, February 2024 Acceleration Academy update.
The only thing I'll share there is we recovered 444 days of school and accounted for almost 1,800 hours of instruction. You can read the memo, but I'm very proud of the students and the staff who participated and attended.
Okay, and so I think we can just go right through the list. Would you?
I'll give a quick.
Okay.
I have
Oh,
just
I'm
a
sorry,
quick
excuse
question.
me, Mrs. Shavs?
Do we know how many students participated in this, and is it just high school students or across the district?
Let me come back to you at the 320 meeting with that information.
Okay,
But
thank you.
I want to say it was all schools, but don't quote me on that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so the next one is the pre-K and kindergarten screening registration update.
Yep, just information for your informational purposes.
Okay. 3 is early literacy screening notification.
This memo explains a Mass General Law requirement that we have to notify families or caregivers of students who we test, who are tested below the benchmark, and provide them with additional supports to get them up to grade level on reading.
Okay, if there's no questions or comments, we'll go to number 4, which is a letter regarding the retirement of Athletic Director Mark Ottavianelli.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say there is Mark is a good friend, a confidant, someone who I've known for many years. He's done some tremendous work. He embodies what it means to be a servant leader. He also embodies what it means to always be learning and stepping out of your comfort zone. And that's noticeable through his work with Northeastern around eradicating hate in sports, his willingness to partner with me and NEASC to develop a standards-based approach to evaluating a model athletic program. So Mark will be deeply missed, but we will be starting or beginning his search. That position will be posted very soon.
Mark has left quite the legacy. And then I think 5 is just informational. Is that?
Correct, informational, and I do want to make the subcommittee aware that I made a mistake. I got 2 joint labor management meetings mixed up, so I will be confirming with the TEA subcommittee if we are meeting on the 13th. So please hold on that one, because I got 2 meetings mixed up.
Okay. All right, so now I will, sure, Mrs. San-
Can
Ms.
add
Santos.
something, Madam Mayor. Just to put on record, I am chair of the curriculum subcommittee, so I just wanted to, Mrs. Shavs and Mrs. Fagan are also on that subcommittee, so I just wanted to make you aware I'll be reaching out to you soon to set up a meeting, a planning and prioritization meeting sometime soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion,
Motion to accept new business.
We need a motion to accept these reports.
Mr. Enos just made it, and then your second.
Second, yes.
Motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, not opposed, so voted. Then we will go to J, unfinished business. There is a field request update, which I believe is a letter on the agenda.
Yeah, just want to make everyone aware that this group approved a field trip, I believe, back on December 6th, for a high school college tour of historical black colleges in the South. However, because of the organization that we were partnering with, they were collecting and depositing, so they were the receiver of all the funds. So we thought it would be in the best interest to turn over all fiscal responsibility and all other liabilities to this agency, so they will be putting on this field trip. It will not be sponsored or co-sponsored by Taunton Public Schools, because they will be the fiscal agent and they will assume all liability. I just wanted to make that clear to everybody, because you approved that trip. So we no longer have any fiscal or any liability with this trip.
Okay, Mrs. Shavs?
So a clarification, are they gonna go during a school vacation?
The plan is to go during the vacation.
Okay, so that they won't be out of school then.
Okay. And then there's a letter regarding, I think an informational letter regarding 2 Hamilton Street facilities assessment.
Informational purposes only. I'll keep you guys updated.
Okay. And then are there any action item updates that need to be addressed?
None at this time.
Okay. All right, so I will take motion.
So moved on that.
Second.
To accept the report as stated.
Thank you. Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, not opposed, so voted. And K is executive session, and Mr. Pulowski is going to make a motion on that.
Okay, motion to go into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to the Taunton Administrators Association, TAA, for the purpose of discussing strategy amongst the committee members for an upcoming arbitration hearing with the Taunton Administrators Association, Unit B, and additionally to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation position of the public body, and the chair so declares. There will be no need to reconvene an open session, as there will be no votes taken.
Second to go into executive session on a roll call vote.
Motion and second on a roll call, and before we do the roll call, I just want to clarify that L comes after that. Obviously, there is no press here this evening, so there is no press time. All right. Motion and second on a roll call, please, Mrs. Fagan?
Yes. Mr. Enos?
Yes.
Mrs. Shavs?
Yes.
Mr. Pulowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Fagan votes yes. Ms. Santos?
Yes.
Mr. Vieira has departed, and Mr.
Yes.
Laura?